brands rely on this to be able to build inventory that will sell, be able to anticipate what the new trends will be. So it's a combination of things, right?
Hey, Stefan, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Ravi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, um, really cool to have you on because you're part of Verizon's fashion startup zone, isn't it? Is that right?
We are, yeah. So we're affiliated with both Ryerson Fashion Zone and the DMZ.
Perfect. Yeah, it's the first time for us to have someone from the fashion zone on. Really curious to know about what's going on there. But before that, what's going on? How's things matter?
Things are good. Interesting times, super busy, but I think good overall for our industry. We're really focused on building a white glove e-commerce business,
Hmm.
and given the state of, where we're at, given the closures, and just given people's general adoption towards e-commerce in general, we're
Hmm.
very excited about and optimistic about the future.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, e-commerce has taken a big boom during this pandemic. I think the early numbers were like the first 3 months of the pandemic. The entire e-commerce industry grew about like 10%, like 3 years worth of growth happened.
Yeah, so McKinsey did a study on this, actually
Mhm.
super interesting. So the pandemic accelerated adoption of digital by 5 years. So that curve steepened by 5 years. That's really the rapid change. And most of that is attributed towards people that weren't using it and had no choice but to learn how to use e-commerce.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely one of those people. I hated the idea of like buying clothes online. Like I rarely buy clothes. When I do, I just buy in bulk. I go on like binges, and generally I want to go on and try them on because I'm like I have no idea what I'm looking for, right? As a dude, like you don't really like think about how things are gonna look. You don't like spend too much time on like fashion or all that stuff until the thing actually looks like it's on you. Then you're like, okay, I'll buy this, and you kind of make that experience. So I actually made the switch to buying stuff online, like especially when it comes to clothes during the pandemic. So I'm definitely in that category.
Yeah, and I mean it really fits into the behavior. So Mannr, it's just for men. A lot of our clients buy a bunch of stuff kind of upfront and all in one shot. So
Hmm.
I'd love to learn about your experience buying on e-commerce. Do you like it more than you thought you would have, and which areas would you want to see improved?
I like it because of the choice, right? Like, yeah, I can see stuff like a lot of the stuff I've seen like I buy is like impulse. See it on like an Instagram store, like on Instagram. I'm like, oh, I can buy this, and then just randomly buy it, and then literally right after, I'm like, why did I buy that? Like, is it gonna, what am I gonna use this for? Where am I gonna wear this? Right? But generally, like one of the things I get is the anxiety of like, is it gonna fit? Like, I have such like a it's such like a negative mindset when it comes to like fits, right? Like, yeah, it says that these are the fits on the website, these are the labels, but is that right? Is it the type of fit I want? And do I want this to look baggy or not? Right? It's just like especially for like clothing, right? It's such like something I don't think about much. So when I do, I just want like have all the information, and you can't really get that from e-commerce, right? Like on top of that, like I used a service back in the day a few years ago called Indochino, right? The bespoke
Of
suits,
course.
right?
Yeah.
Like yeah, they're
Yeah.
legends
Great
in Canada.
service. Yeah.
Yeah. What I liked about them was that you get measurements done, and then once those measurements are in the system, you can order whatever suits you want, and then they customize it for you. And that took away that anxiety for me. It's like, okay, they already have my measurements. They can't mess that up, right? They know exactly what my thing is. So I always thought, I'm like, how do we blend that in, right? How do I upload my measurements or what it looks like to me or like test it out? That thing, like that was always my blocker. And even now, like even though we're forced to buy things online, especially when it comes to things like clothes and stuff like that, I'm not there yet to be like a primary adopter.
Yeah, well, I mean, all of the reasons that you just mentioned really was the reason why we created Manor in the first place.
Hmm.
So Just for a little bit of context, my last business, Localize, was the first fashion marketplace and first marketplace actually built for Shopify when they released their sales channel SDK. So we were the first exclusive marketplace built for them, and we sold fashion. But the area that we took is, enabling local shopping. So you know how if you walk down like Queen West or Yorkville, there are a lot of boutiques and like, kind of really nice shops. I always thought, hey, how would I ever discover these stores unless I actually work downtown? So what we did is rolled that up into a marketplace where you can shop neighborhoods from all across North America. Anyway, long story short, built the supply side up very quickly. We were the number one trending app on Shopify, several times over a span of 6 months. Um, on the demand side, though, we were very much a traditional e-commerce business. So
Mm.
we were competing with established players like Farfetch, for example. And in the eyes of the consumer, the experience was the same. So you just had to spend a lot of money to keep this customer's attention, acquire the customer, reacquire the customer, target the customer. So really what we thought was, how do we take everything that frankly sucks about buying clothes online, and it's all of those problems that you were referring to, the fit, how do you pair this stuff together, where do I go, is this fabric going to even look good on me, is there a reason or purpose why I'm buying it, like that consulting piece. So our professional stylists are able to help you with all of that up front, and you can answer all those questions, that decision making process, like right up front. And then the big problem is actually trying stuff on. So with us, we deliver it to you. We have like a
Hmm.
white glove like delivery service. Deliver it to you. You can try everything on at home, and then if you ever need to return or exchange anything, you just text your stylist, and like we either bring you the right garment or we take your return for you. So our customers just basically look at it as a way to try stuff on in the comfort of their own home. Then
Hmm.
you have somebody taking it for you. So that's why Mannr was created.
That's that's a really interesting concept. It's almost like bringing the store to you rather than just purchasing, pre-purchasing things.
Yeah, like, with stores, candidly, like it's an experience that our customer, like we're focused on men, and our customers, they don't like going to the store, that overall experience, right? But they
Yeah.
want to look good and they want to dress well. So for us, it's all about, how do you just take e-commerce to another level? That's why we call it white glove. And how do you make shopping super easy, efficient, effective, and comfortable?
Hmm. Yeah. So let's break that down. So I mean, one of the holy grails in especially fashion tech has been has been like the promise of AR, right? You scan yourself, and you can throw clothes onto yourself either through like a virtual reality system or like an augmented reality system, or you just have like a scan of yourself and then you put things onto it, right? And there's a lot of like movement in this space, but we seem to be a few iterations away from that space, right? Are you guys trying to take on that challenge at all, or do you trying to do like pre-fit stuff before, or are you doing more about like ad hoc, like a store would?
Yeah, like for us right now, that technology wouldn't provide, incremental value to the
Hmm.
extent that like we would make it one of our priorities. Like our return rate is only 15%, which is well below the 40% return rate in the
Wow.
industry.
Yeah.
So like the reason for that is because like, we have really robust data in terms of the brands that we work with, and we have that knowledge of what will fit, what won't fit. So just having that knowledge up front and being able to deliver that like customized service solves the fit problem up front. Maybe at a later stage when a lot of these technologies are a lot, more developed, and the partners that we have like, because you need two sides, right? You need your body and then you need like the measurement itself. It could be something for sure in the future. But like with our business right now, the stylists are doing a fantastic job of delivering that level of service to our customers.
Cool. Like, okay, so I mean, those sound like really good positives to the company. Like, being able to, as a customer experience, being able to, try a bunch of clothes. So, can you walk me through that cadence? Like, what do I do? Like, I go through your app? Do I just choose a bunch of items and then those items get delivered to me, and then I can get to try them on? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. Yeah. So how it works is you start on our website. So
Hmm.
www.getmanner.com. There's a start now button, and that's our intake. And the
Yeah.
intake will take some data points on you. So what's your body type, what's your style, what's your budget, like what are your goals or personalized needs. It takes about 3 minutes. From there, we're capturing these data points, and it helps us build a profile on you to give your stylist a head start on, ideas and what you might like and what your goals are. From there, the stylist will engage you through text message, set up an appointment with you. So at a time that works for you. At that point, the first step is to look at some styles together. So during your appointment, you'll look at some style ideas. The stylist is further evaluating like what your personal style is and what it is that you're after. Like how do you dress? Are you like more of like a preppy person? Are you more of like a Bay Street type of person? Are you more of like a streetwear person? Are you, and then just another dimension, like do you like colors and patterns and prints? Do you like blues, grays, blacks? Like what kind of, you know what I mean? Just like
Mm.
all of these style elements. So they'll get that dialed in. And then the next step is to curate something that we call a lookbook. So they'll curate outfits, send it to you through text through our web tool. In that lookbook, you can choose the garments that you want, as little as one or as much as all of them. Make the purchase right off the lookbook, and then your job is done. From there, we procure the product, we package it, and then we work with a logistics partner to get it mailed to you. Once you get the products, you can try them on at home. If you need to exchange or return anything, you just text your stylist. For example, hey, these jeans that I bought are too big. Can we size down? No problem. We'll send somebody to bring you the right size, and then you can give your how do you
Yeah. Yeah.
back to the customer, and then or back to the driver rather, and then we'll just take it for you.
Cool. I mean, that sounds really interesting. I like the idea of like having somebody in between, like almost like a account manager, almost like someone who's like taking care of your needs and like watching after you, right? I like the idea of like having like
And
almost like
then
a consultant. Uh, how much of this is self-driven versus like consulted, right? Like I often don't know what I want. Generally you go to a store, you look at the mannequins, you see what else is out there, and then you go in. Same thing with e-commerce, right? You look through that, but is there any kind of way to build like a recommendation system or like a recommendation person? Like how could I get like better insights into what I could be wearing?
your stylist will take care of that. So we have some, process and technology in the background. We call it magic in the background that help
Yeah.
us like assist with like cut products that you'd have like a higher likeliness or propensity to purchase. And we just give you super hyper customized outfit ideas. So all the outfits are laid out in a way that they all work together, and you could choose like, hey, do these work for me or not? And if they don't work, you can just go through another iteration or two or three or however many it takes with your stylist until we get it bang on. But the process that I was referring to beforehand about trying to gauge your style, that's going to be key in determining like the direction that you want to go and what your stylist recommends.
Cool. So, I mean, let's talk about like what brought you here. What exactly was the problem that Spurts on? Was it something you saw like it was missing in the market? Was it a personal issue that you're like, oh man, I wish shopping was better, or was it iteration from like a previous idea?
It was the last one. So, like I was saying before, we had that localize app,
Yeah.
and really the premise was, we learned a ton because we had, hundreds of merchants. We had, thousands of clients, and we had a ton of transactions. And like through that experience, we were like, hey, um, buying clothes on e-commerce is not optimal, right? There are a ton of problems with it, right? All of the reasons. It's discovery, fit, pairing stuff together, delivery, and returns. So from what we learned, we thought there was a huge opportunity to deliver that white glove e-commerce service and solve all of these problems. So
Hmm.
that's why we built Mannr. And then why focus on men is usually another question that we get. There's a lot less out there for men, frankly, right?
Yep.
Menswear is growth in menswear is outpacing women's wear. It's going to continue to do so each of the next 5 years. Interest in men's fashion is growing. There are less options available. The market is very big, and frankly, like our customers, they would prefer, they see the value in having somebody do that task for them.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not like a recreational activity for them. They don't consider it that.
No, definitely. So, like, what about like when it came to developing the system, right? Like,
Yep.
you talked about you had like a previous system before this.
Yep.
Are you a programmer yourself? Are you like, do you have co-founders? Like, how did you get the system up?
So I come from a business background. I spent 5 years in management consulting before creating my first startup, Localize. So that's where I came from. And yeah, we've just had help from talented tech people helping us build, both this app and Mannr right now.
Perfect. Sorry, I'm just adjusting here. Um, yeah. So getting to that, right? Like, I mean, I found a lot of people who have, sometimes you're getting into tech without a tech background. They always have this issue of like developing a product, getting the product made the way that they had in mind, moving that
Yep.
forward, right?
Yep. Yep.
How, like, did you experience any struggles like this trying to like get your market out, get your product out?
Yeah, so great question. The first app, Localize, we raised capital. We raised a very nicely sized angel round. It gave us a good amount of runway to hire resources, and we did. We had great design, executed the app. It worked well. Like we really kind of focused on building this great product. But I think like one of the key learnings from that whole experience was you've got to be doing, testing at a smaller scale when you're in the ideation stage instead
Mm-hmm.
of going out to build a product right away. So with Mannr it was a little bit different. Like we did a lot of stuff manually up front and just kind of built up the system with the minimal amount of tech as possible or any tools that we would have. We did have somebody on our team helping us build custom development as required. But it's just building up in small increments and not trying to build that product that's perfect and you have that like, ta-da moment when you release it without, having a lot of insights along the way. So like the product to where we have it now is just basically built in blocks of multiple smaller iterations and each gate that we would cross, we had like KPIs and we had like insights that we would use to justify building the features as we went along. So the short answer is a little bit at a time.
Cool. I mean, that's the best way to do it, right? Get iterative and you get better at it. So, like more about the Fashion Zone and DMZ and how they came to play and support. So, your first solution, right? Actually, before you get down to that, your first solution, Localize. What was the story there? Did you pivot into Mannr or did you shut that down and you transition here?
It was the latter. We shut down the business and then, we kind of went through a long period of, thinking about what this new business could potentially look like, a lot
Hmm.
of different ideas, a lot of testing, and yeah, it took us some time before we launched. We launched Mannr about a year after, about 9 months after we closed down Localize.
Wow. I mean, that's always a hard decision to make, to move away from something you took time to build out and to position yourself back into the building blocks and start again. I mean, kudos on you guys. That's hard to do and great to see that you take those steps. So when did Toronto Fashion Zone come into play? I mean, Horizons Fashion Zone and DMZ come into play?
Yeah, they've just been the most, excellent partners that you could ever ask for. We're very fortunate to be with both. They're both extremely helpful in every way. Like both are amazing at, connecting us with people and talent and resources, like on an advisory level to help grow our business. Like for example, Fashion Zone, when we launched Mannr, like our network and breadth and depth of knowledge wasn't very vertical focused in fashion. So, with the Fashion Zone, they were, instrumental in bringing in advisors and fashion experts during the ideation phase, but also like through execution to help us with like that actual execution, not only fashion, but retail itself. And, through them, we were able to really learn the business. On the DMZ, on the tech side, they've been, incredible for us. So DMZ is amazing for like building and scaling tech companies, right? Whether it comes to technical help, marketing help, business strategic help, and just a wide array of resources. So both programs are incredible, and I highly recommend them for any entrepreneurs, really looking for help on getting their business to the next level.
No, absolutely. Can you talk a little more about Ryson's Fashion Zone and
Of course.
what kind of work they do?
Yeah, so it's an excellent program where they offer, I think, like probably you can group it into two different buckets.
Hmm.
The first one is more like educational, so they're always offering like very relevant and timely courses taught by subject matter experts that will teach you like very technical skills like digital marketing or like trend spotting or like it's things that require like very specialized knowledge. They'll bring in a subject matter expert and make these courses available, and they're relevant and timely all the time. That would be the first bucket. The second are the advisor meetings, which, there's a ton of value there. They have an excellent team of advisors. I've worked with many of them, and all of them are excellent. You can just simply book time in their calendars, and
Hmm.
you can ask very specific questions depending on what their area of expertise is.
Yeah. Is it specialized towards fashion or e-commerce? Like
All,
what's
all,
the
all, all of them. Yeah.
yeah.
So like, there would be, people that I would work with that are excellent at PR or excellent at like fundraising or excellent at with retail experience, excellent at menswear specifically, like just kind of all of those skills.
Cool. Um, awesome, man. So, like, talking more about the change right now in e-commerce and how things are fluctuating, right? Like, any major patterns you're seeing that are really interesting, like any kind of behavioral changes, any kind of market changes, shifts in the market.
Yeah, well, adoption of e-commerce has gone up, substantially, right? Like
Hmm.
before the pandemic, only 20% of transactions were done on e-commerce. 80% were still done in brick and mortar. Obviously, that's flipped, right? Probably 180 if you look at the
Hmm.
latest data, at least in our area, just because stores are closed. We've been on lockdown, for,
Forever,
probably
forever.
seven months out of the last 12, right? Maybe we had a span of 4 or 5 months that we were open. So yeah, there's really, it's e-commerce is the only game in town.
Yeah,
So, that's a seismic shift where,
yeah.
people
Well,
are
what I'm
forced.
what I'm curious about is like behavior patterns have shifted too. Like people are not going out. There's no parties, right? There's
Yeah,
there's no
yeah,
even going into work, right?
yeah.
So the type of clothing I would imagine is changed too. It's more lounge or comfort wear for you to wear at home that kind of makes you feel like you're at work but not.
Yeah, so like, I'll just talk about like our customers, right? Like our customers, a lot of them are buying stuff from home, right?
Hmm.
Where like they want to chill at home. So like loungewear or like, stuff where they don't want to, they want to look good at home, but if they need to step out and run errands, they'll look good as well. They want stuff for Zoom calls. So
Yeah.
like a lot of them, one of the most important things is comfort. If you're going to be sitting at home all day, you want to wear something comfortable. But if you're going on a Zoom call, you don't want to wear like a t-shirt with like a stain on it or something, So like just the fabrics, stuff with a lot of stretch. We're recommending like dress shirts that on a Zoom they look like a dress shirt, but really they feel like a t-shirt, like very
Hmm.
functional stuff. So that's like one bucket, like that very like work from home type of stuff that looks good, but it's very functional and really kind of stepping up their game in that area. The second is people that are buying in advance of going back to work. When you're at home, you have a good opportunity to look at your closet. A lot of our clients know that, the days of dressing up in a suit and tie are basically dead. Like my suits have been collecting dust in my closet. They don't get worn at all. It was something that I wore every day. And, even speaking to, my former colleagues and partners at the consulting firms that I worked at, the behavior is the same. They said, we don't wear suits anymore. Like that's dead. Maybe like we'll wear, a suit but with like a casual shirt, or you know what I mean, something like that. Like suit and tie is done. So the transition is a lot more casual,
Hmm.
and our customers are recognizing that, and they're buying for the more casual workplace. And casual is a lot harder to do. I'll be honest. Like when you do a suit, it's a uniform. So you have your rotation of suits, your rotation of shirts, your rotation of ties, and you mix and match. And you know like what goes with what. And some stuff goes with everything.
Yep.
Like a blue suit or a gray suit's like pretty easy to style, right? Or black suit. So now it's like a lot more complicated with casual. It's like, do I wear a blazer? Is it like does my suit blazer go well with jeans? No, it doesn't look good,
Mm.
right? Okay, well, what kind of blazer should I be wearing? Is it structured blazer, unstructured blazer, my sweaters? Do I wear polos with the blazer? What kind of shoes am I wearing? Like the whole wardrobe needs to be revamped. So they're like anticipating this and they're making that change because like we firmly believe that, when you're going to want to get back out there in the world, you want to be on your A game. You want to be your best self. You haven't seen people in a long time. You want to look good. And, people are already thinking ahead and are planning for that.
Yeah. So, what do you think is going to happen, like post pandemic? Right? Do you think people are going to rush back into stores? That retail is going to have like another boom, or people are going to get used to e-commerce and it's going to be there to stay? Like, or you think there's going to be a hybrid model? People want to do both.
Well, I think the industry is in transition because people's adoption of e-commerce is making the way for more innovation on how you can do things better. If only 20% of the sales were done in e-commerce, maybe that was good enough. But now if that's moving to 50%, all of the experience, that people in that additional 30% that weren't using e-commerce
Hmm.
before, those expectations are going to be different. There was probably a reason why they weren't using e-commerce in the first place. So it opens up, opportunities for innovation to help appeal to these customers. So I think e-commerce is definitely here to stay. And I also think that, what happened with the pandemic is going to pave the way for more innovation and a lot more advancement in terms of how people interact with products, purchase products, and just their overall buying experience.
Yeah, but what I'm concerned about is like what is the future going to shift to, like with the rapid change, right? Like, I mean, think about like all the mechanisms that are shifted, right? Like a lot of people's first jobs are retail jobs, right? Like a lot of people's first customer jobs are like, being in this customer service slash like retail environment. We're helping people in. Now that's all going to dissipate, right? Um, they're talking about the death of malls. Malls, they're looking into like, are malls going to be repurposed into completely different centers, right? There was like a project set forward that was proposing that malls, especially the ones that don't get enough flow through rate to keep alive, we turn them into like innovation centers, right? Give them to startups, give them to e-commerce startups even, right? And let them use the brick and mortar aspect of it and turn them more into incubators almost, right? To in order to like to start up and scale like e-commerce platforms almost, or like, yeah, like more digital stores, but give them like a hybrid model where it's almost like a pop-up model, like different stores come in, but then once customers get used to it, there's an online version of it, or companies that are online based can come in and have a physical presence, and it's more like ethereal, right? Less like lockdown brick and mortar, more like a pop-up model, or things like that, right? Like, do you see that the retail experience is going to have to shift? And if it does, like, you have any thoughts towards it?
Definitely. So, malls, I don't think are dead, but I don't think they're dead at all because they're gathering spots, especially tier one malls. Like tier
Mm.
one spot malls are gathering spots for people. Think of the Eaton Center, right? The Eaton Center, how many millions of people walk through there on a regular basis in terms of foot traffic. There's probably hundreds of thousands of people walking through every single day, right? Every single day. So on from that aspect, they always have beautiful restaurants, the latest stores, places where you can go and interact with products. But I think innovation will pave the way for opportunities to shop differently, and will pave the way for, innovation of how malls are, like what the mall experience is like. I think having, online, offline experiences and being very clever about how you marry the two are going to be key for, these kind of brick and mortar shopping experiences as we move forward in the future.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be changes. There's definitely results, but like going back into home, right? And shifts like, you're living in the city, right? Are you in Toronto?
Yes.
Yeah.
We are in
So like,
Toronto. Yep.
in Toronto, like, we're seeing this huge dispersion, right? Like Scott Galloway talks about this a lot. Like he's calling this time like the pandemic, like the great financially the Great Dispersion. So unlike the Great Recession, unlike the Great Depression, we're not seeing a erasure of wealth. Like wealth is not being lost, but rather shifted, right? And the biggest change in wealth is going from the number one asset class in the world is commercial real estate and moving into the number two asset class in the world, residential real estate. So as commercial office buildings go defunct and people are not going into retail locations, commercial spaces are taking a hit, but the home residential spaces are going up. So services like yours, that target and service the residential markets, right? People who are sitting at home and need access are definitely in the upcome, like on the come up, right? So that's part of what's driving that. But there's a lot of like underlying economic factors changing that too, right? Like what's going to happen? Like people are going to want more spacious homes. People are going to want more, have as long as you have internet access and access to like some highway somewhere, people are more willing to go out into remote locations, right? And just
Yep.
if everything's online, and everything's accessible, why not go somewhere where things are cheaper? Things are like a little bit slow moving. So we're seeing this almost like reverse of like the last like 100 years of development, where people are trying to go into more urban areas towards what action is, right? They say like location is so important. Now with the internet, location is no longer important. Physical space is being taken away, right? You can operate from kind of anywhere, right? And that's going to be changing culture, changing how cities are going to function and flow, right? And changing consumer behavior overall, right? So I'm really interested in seeing how that interplays.
Yeah, it's just it's a massive shift for sure, and nobody knows really how it's going to play out. But I think I agree with you definitely that where big changes are underway and innovation is going to be key. I think we're at a really key time in our history, and it's going to be very interesting to see how the next few years play out.
Definitely, definitely. Another thing about you talk about e-commerce and stuff, like Tesla made big headways recently. Talking about accepting Bitcoin as a payment system, right?
Yeah,
For freaking Teslas, for a car,
yeah,
you can buy a
yeah,
car with Bitcoin now,
yeah.
right?
It's
Do you
cool.
see the yeah? Do you see the crypto space, coming up now, becoming more accessible as like a payments platform, right? What's your
Have you
thoughts?
ever used Bitcoin for payments before?
It's horrible, right? I mean,
Did you have a bad experience with it? I've had excellent experiences.
so Bitcoin, there's like a huge transition. Like a transit cost, right? When you transfer from your wallet to elsewhere, right?
Yes.
So it's not meant for a payment system. Like for a big purchase like a Tesla, maybe, but you can't be like spending it on like a $2 item or like a $20 item or even a $200 item, because you're gonna lose a lot into transaction costs, right?
Yeah.
Like it's Bitcoin's fork model, Litecoin, it solves this problem, right? It's a lighter version, so it costs less transition cost. It's meant for more ethereal purchases. That's been there, but like overall, right? Like there was like there was an article that came out this week, right? Talking about this from one of the big banks in the U.S. anyways, talking about how the guy said one line that really stood out. It's like if you're like a large company now, right, and you're only accepting fiat, you're taking a risk. Because you're now fiat is directly proportional to the governments and the nationalities you're a part of, where like cryptos are now more broadly based, right? There was a factoid that came out today. Bitcoin now, right? Everyone talks about price, but when it comes to user adoption, has the same amount of users as the internet did in 1998, right? And if you look at the user adoption curve, it's been a linear growth upwards, right? Even though the
Yep.
price has been greatly fluctuating. So yeah, I think there is some utility in crypto and how to be utilized. But
Interesting.
have you thought of it as like as a payments platform?
Honestly, it's just priorities right
Yeah.
now. I think it's something that we would definitely consider. Just think about it, like very simply. You're a guy that has been investing in Bitcoin and you've made a ton of money, I think across like 51K. It's not even, real money at a certain point, right? So if
Hmm.
you want to be making these purchases, it's not coming out of your bank balance. Your actual balance is appreciated by so much. I think it's a no-brainer, especially something for a Tesla, right? Like if you're trying to sell a product, make it available, in anything that, makes it convenient for people to buy. I agree with you. Bitcoin is expensive, so it's not something like to be honest, I've just been recently experimenting with it over the last few months, just out of curiosity. Like
Mm.
not, I haven't really held it as an investment. And then even in terms of like keeping money in there, it's been too volatile to have like practical use if like the value's fluctuating so much. But I have been experimenting it over the last few months and really get a handle for what it's all about. The actual transfer of payments is very smooth. So like looking at like the future as like crypto becoming mainstream, I think that's your question, right? Like is crypto gonna become more mainstream? I think absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Things you've got to consider, of course, are like tax implications, and you've got to consider, what the government will permit and not permit. Like as things become more mainstream, there will be more regulation, and maybe it'll make Bitcoin itself less convenient, but I think, maybe Bitcoin is the future, maybe another cryptocurrency is the future, but anything that enables seamless payments like it does, like Bitcoin is, I think that technology is amazing. And,
Hmm.
I don't see the point, like I don't like there's just a natural evolution. Like I don't carry cash really or pay in cash. It's not something that I do anymore, right?
Yeah.
So, there's no function for it. So I think like the tech makes a lot of sense, and I think that trend is definitely one that's here to stay.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. Like I haven't felt cash in my hand in so long. I haven't
Yeah,
transacted with it. I haven't withdrawn it. Right. Everything's becoming way more digital, right?
yeah,
Hmm.
totally, totally. You have the tap on your Visa. Like I like using credit card because of the points personally,
Yeah.
right? So, I think maybe incorporating some of that, I think everybody would use it. Just kind of ease of use of payments.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. So, I mean, what's next for you guys? So you're right now. You're in the market. People already have users,
Yeah, we are.
right?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
we launched last year. We launched last January, so we've been, um, in the market for 14 months.
40 months. Perfect. So, where did that lead to? How do you grow from here?
Yeah, so year one was all about, figuring out a few things, right?
Hmm.
Figuring out, is there a market for this service? Do we have a product? Who's the customer? And then just kind of building a process around that. So it was all kind of in sequence, right? Like, Q1 last year was all about testing out the service, and then you get to quarter two, and then that was a little bit of a funny one because of like the pandemic. And then, quarter three was we had some leads on who our target customer was and really catered to them. And then Q4 was building process around that. And then now kind of the next phase for us is scale. So, we have customer acquisition channels that scale. We have a process that scales, and it's going to be about really trying to get the word out as much as we can about Mannr and getting as many people as possible using Mannr, loving Mannr, telling their friends about us, and giving us feedback on how we can continue to serve them better and just build the best possible experience possible.
Is there limitations on what localities you can serve? Like your model is ethereal, right? Like anywhere from anyone can technically order a product and deliver to them. Is there ever a logistics problem?
No logistics problem, but we cater to the GTA. So mostly the GTA, but we go as far as like Hamilton or or Ajax, like anywhere within kind of a reasonable distance to the downtown core. But the majority of our business is in Toronto. We're just in Toronto right now.
Gotcha. Any plans to go to Vancouver or a different city?
We think there's a ton of opportunity in Toronto, so we're just super focused on
Growth,
getting
yeah.
the word out here, and yeah, just getting the Toronto market as far as we can take it, and then we'll reevaluate when the time comes.
Perfect, man. So, talking about like e-commerce and payments and stuff, right? Like cybersecurity has become like one of the biggest concerns now that everyone's working from home, and like they're no longer protected from like commercial centers where they work out of. Being even running a startup, it's kind of risky. We've heard about at least 2, 3 startups in the past year that have been hit with like ransomware attacks, that have like someone on the team will get an email that looks like it's from the founder, but it'll have 2 dots in between the first and last name instead of 1 dot. Open up a PDF and boom, like there's like a virus in the system. There's been a lot of like a lot of shady things happening, right? Have you been educating yourself or like trying to protect the firm about how to be better secure?
Yeah, we've had like fraudulent transactions that have tried to come through, but it doesn't make it through like our processing system so far. Like
Hmm.
we've got some good controls and in place to detect it at multiple levels.
Yeah, I mean that's from the customer side, of course, right? But actually operating a company itself, like one of the things like I'll become super paranoid is like using like a VPN service, 2-factor authentication on everything. I started becoming more and more paranoid because we're seeing more and more like intrusion level attacks happening, or people just messing around, right? Like cybersecurity becoming more and more of a concern, right? And one of the things that like in the innovation community is that yeah, we have these accelerators and incubators that teach us how to get your products out there, how to get product market fit, but like there's very little digital training on how to operate as in a digital environment, right? Best practices, how to be secure. Like even it might seem like basic knowledge, but like if you don't standardize or like at least thinking, you put some thought into it as a founder, right? Like you're like there's a lot of variations to that. So I feel like there's need to be a lot more, not education, but at least more awareness training, right, for anybody that's operating a business right now, because one of the things like I think we're lacking as a nation is like some kind of like just like like an RCMP for the web. If someone hacks your account, who do you go to? Like whether it be a social media account or like a bank account is different. I mean that goes straight up level of security, but like someone hacks your social media account, someone takes down your website, someone hits you with a DOS attack, like there's no like one stop place to go. Like you got to go get a private solution to this, right? And even before that even happens, how do you perform best practices to like better ourselves, right? I'm trying to get better in training into that, and gather more knowledge in that space. Like have you put any thought of yourself?
The payment security is the biggest one that we're concerned with right now. So we've
Yeah.
got like a lot of processes in place, to prevent fraudulent transactions. I think outside of that and just in general, like, we're working on a corporate partnership right now, for example, and we've invested a lot in terms of cybersecurity, to your point, and making sure that we're compliant with this corporate partner. So that's the other piece. Like, we've got there's a lot that was required in terms of security, backups, penetration testing, and all the work. So I think that just goes with being a modern company, especially one if you're a startup considering corporate partnerships. You're going to have a long list of requirements that you need in order to meet those standards.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of like the clothing side of things, right? So one of the cool things that I like is like, but like the fashion industry has been fast fashion, right? So like Zara, like the way they like industrialize fashion, right, was really astounding, right? So I mean, one of the key breakaways they did was break down the turnaround time from like getting things to market. So rather than like some off-seas designer designing something, then send to a manufacturer and giving it out there, they have this very iterative process they built into like how to be at the top of the curve. Almost like as if they're the ones inventing fashion, or like being part of the culture of fashion,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yep.
They shorten the time frame using technology into delivering products to market, right?
Hmm.
How do you like keep like when it comes to fashion, when things are so ethereal, how do you keep like a diverse portfolio of assets, or or stock available?
So, we just the beautiful thing about Mannr is that like we offer infinite breadth and depth of products. Like we have a very wide array of partnerships that we have right
Hmm.
now, and just kind of enable us to, offer more products than any individual store because we combine
Yeah,
tons
yeah,
of brands, tons of retailers. So that's the beauty about Mannr. It's literally a one-stop shop for our customers, and we can, curate looks for you based on, your personalized needs during that specific shopping session.
yeah. Like one of the things that always stood out to me is like I've never been a fashion person, but my sister, right? When I was like growing up, right? One of the things that like really got to me was like, I was wearing like a maroon shirt or something, and she looked at me and she's like, "Yo, maroon's really in right now. That's sick." And I'm like, "What do you mean it's in right now? Like, how's a color in, right?" Like, I never got it. I always been like out of the box. I used to like wear what I wanted to wear, but that really got to me. It's like, well, how do you know things are in, right? And that always like stuck out to me. Like like I have a background in like psychology and neuroscience, so I started thinking about this as like a psychology experiment, right? Like, okay, cool. Like we have like this group of people, right? And somehow there's leaders in this group of people deciding what the culture is, deciding what's in, what's cool, what's not. Who are these people, right? Who are these influencers? Like now we have like the social media influencers, yeah, but like who are the people who are setting trends or like motivating people towards a certain trend? You know, how did that all
Yeah.
right? Right. I think that's one of the interesting things of like of humanity, right? Is the culture. Like, where does it come from? Like, how does it change? Who are the ones that are setting it? You know?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's actually a profession, and
Mhm.
it's a very lucrative profession and a very important profession in fashion called trend spotting.
Mm.
And, brands rely on this to be able to build inventory that will sell, be able to anticipate what the new trends will be. So it's a combination of things, right? There's a study and like in the whole, expertise in terms of how to do this, but cultural icons and kind of just things that are happening in our world and our culture right now play a huge impact, right? And movies, music videos, social media, all of these things, I think play a massive impact. If you see somebody wearing something and it looks really good on them, you're inspired. You'll have a sequence of people. You'll have like the early adopters, just like technology. The same thing with fashion. You'll have like the early adopters, wearing, and then it'll kind of just move along the line. So, I mean, this is definitely the business, and trends is a big component.
Hmm. Have you been following like are you on TikTok?
I am, yeah.
Yeah.
I am
So
definitely.
one of the crazy things about TikTok is how viral things are, right? Like because it's video, it's short video. It's like how Instagram used
Yep.
to be, but like it's way faster cycle, right? Trends on TikTok kind of move really quickly.
Yep.
And I was talking to someone about talking to someone who runs an ad agency, and they're like, there's no commercial market yet for ads on TikTok because the people using TikTok are generally younger generation kids who don't have money, at least not yet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all these major brands are looking at it like like hungry wolves, but like just waiting for the market to age to a point where like it's commercially viable. But like what is viable is like is trend setting, right? If you as a business or an influencer can set a trend ahead of the curve and can measure out the bounce bounce of it, then you can capitalize on it, right? So I think some examples were like there was recently a few items of clothes that came out, and it became like associated as TikTok gear, right? And it's like it's known as that, and then suddenly people start buying it through that, right? So I think TikTok now operates like a shop through TikTok where you can buy like merchandise and shop through it, because they're trying to figure out how to make revenue off of it. But like one of the interesting cases there is that that back and forth market that TikTok can perform, right? You have a whole bunch of attention. The attention graph is huge. People are paying attention are huge, but the people who can directly influence it and also, sell through it. Like, kind of like what Instagram is promising with Instagram stores, right? But like with TikTok, we're seeing an emergence of that in that market space, right? So I think what I'm curious about is like how the trend spotting changes with digital, right? I mean, is it eventually going to be an algorithm that just watches, like what people are talking about, what people are wearing, and then like just capturing all those data points? Or is someone already doing that? I think that's interesting to look into.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of that already going on. Definitely, there are, businesses that are very savvy with identifying, these insights that will help generate sales.
Yeah. Perfect, Stefan. I mean, I think this has been a great conversation. We don't get to often talk about trends and fashion. I try to do my best job trying to be relevant. But hey, man, what you're doing is pretty cool. I think you're in a great space, right? Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your ideas and insights.
Thanks, Ravi. Really appreciate you having me. It was a pleasure, and keep in touch.
Definitely. Stick around. We'll do a quick debrief. But for everyone who tuned in, thanks for watching.